we need a little more time, and we need your patience so that we can make a decision as to when to go back, when to get back to life as we know it, in the most safe manner possible. Our crews in Public Works and contractors worked all night in very dangerous conditions. They fought a number of issues. There were numerous cases where city employees and contractors worked in really heroic ways to make sure that the temporary system that we put in place was fully functional. Where we saw potentials for weaknesses or breaches, our city employees and contractors got right to work to make sure that the system, again, performed as designed. While we're optimistic, as I said, we're still continuing to fight this battle. It's not over. There's been a bit of a change in that what we're looking at now is not necessarily what you see above ground, it's what's underground. So the HESCO barriers have performed in a highly effective manner. That's what you see above ground. Those barriers and those walls and those levees that the city and our contractors and our friends have built. Those sandbags that the citizens of Cedar Rapids have placed. Over 250,000 sandbags. All that's worked in general to protect our city. And we know as we allow individuals to go back to their homes and businesses, there'll be reports of water coming in various ways. But in general, we're very, very pleased with the way the system has worked above ground. But again, there's tremendous pressure by this water underground. So that's what we don't see. The enemy now is what we don't see. And we're going to see in the coming hours and the coming days more water in the streets coming from the sewer system. And that can be just as dangerous as that pressure continues to build until the level starts to decrease. Again, our citizens are anxious to get back to their homes. Please have confidence that the city has a plan and will get people back to their homes and businesses as soon as possible. We're going to continue to report on conditions as they change throughout the next couple of days, certainly, and that information will be made available through social media, through the city's website. We know again that our local media has done a fantastic job reporting, so we've made ourselves available to local media to report messages as well. One thing that's extremely important is for individuals to stay clear of the evacuation area to allow workers space to do the hard work that they're responsible to do. We've said this before, but we could not be in this place. We've been able to protect our city from the second largest flooding event in the entire history of our city. We would not be in this place without all the help and partnerships, as well as, and most importantly, the support and the hard work of the citizens of the city of Cedar Rapids. So we very, very much appreciate all the work that's been done. It's not over yet, but we're feeling very good. We're feeling very, very confident that, again, this temporary system that we built in less than 2 days will protect our city. And the hard work and planning that's taken place in the city of Cedar Rapids since the flood of '08 in particular is paying off, and you're seeing the dividends. Without that planning, without the tremendous work of our city employees and our contractors and our partners, that system wouldn't have been built and our city would have been at significant risk. So the work we've done has been extremely important, and I just want to make sure everyone understands the magnitude of this flood almost reaching the 23-foot level. With that, I'm going to call up a number of our directors to talk about status, and again, we'll then conclude with our mayor. We'll answer some questions then, and then we have several other partners that want to come forward. Before I do that, I wanted to start by introducing Colonel Jamie Daly and CSM Doug Bolton from the National Guard, who have a few comments. And we deeply appreciate the National Guard being here. They reacted quickly. They've been of great help, as the entire state has been for us, but it's been reassuring to have the Guard in our city. So, Colonel Daly and Bolton.
All right, good morning. Just some very brief comments. Again, Colonel Jamie Daly, Sergeant Major Doug Bolton. We're the command team for the 67th Troop Command. Our headquarters is actually out of Iowa City. We've got roughly 400 soldiers here from units across eastern Iowa, started assembling Sunday, and they've been on duty in their control points, roughly 75, mostly here in Cedar Rapids, since noon on Monday. Our mission here is to assist the community and assist law enforcement. Most of our soldiers have been deployed across the globe, but we're honored now to be serving the citizens of Iowa. The reception has been fantastic. I want to thank Cedar Rapids and the local community for that great reception. Having seen the city in 2008, it is remarkable the difference, and I'm amazed and proud really of the resiliency and the helpfulness and generosity of the community. So we're grateful to be here, and we're grateful to be assisting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first person I'll call forward is Jen Winter, our Director of Public Works, and Jen has been really the person responsible for leading the employees that have erected the flood protection system that we put in place, the temporary system, as well as all the coordination and making sure that this system continues to work effectively. Jen.
The river has crested at just over 22 feet and is very slowly at this point making its way down. Crews worked tirelessly throughout the night to protect the community from the floodwaters around us. During the night, we worked to keep watch for weaknesses in the system, to pump the seepage that was coming through the temporary flood control, and water that was coming up through the ground because of the saturated levels and the high river level. We also worked to mitigate floodwaters that were coming into the backside of the system through our storm sewers. We had many people last night willing to work through the night to put their own safety at risk, including city staff, engineers, Army Corps, and our private contractors. Without the help of all of these people, we would be in a very different place this morning. In some areas of the city, we were working in areas that were over 4 feet below the elevation of the river that was surrounding us. And while for the most part, the ground level behind the system is dry, it is still a very dangerous situation. The ground is saturated. We are continuing to fight water that is seeping through the system and up through the ground and coming in from our storm sewers. We also want to note that while we hope everybody's first floor elevation is dry, we will still have many properties that are close to the river that will have water in their basements. I cannot thank enough all of the people who came out to help us with this feat last night. It was a tremendous show of coordination and cooperation between city staff, private businesses, and private contractors, and you should be very proud to be a part of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'd now like to call on Chief English, our fire chief.
Good morning again. I'm Mark English, Cedar Rapids Fire Chief. As has been our message for public safety from the beginning, safety is still number one. We do still have the incident management team operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, putting all the pieces together to make this relief or this effort what it is today. We do have crews, again, staged on both sides of the river, both ladder trucks and boat rescue operations, water resources. They also have been cruising the river, not on the river, but from what they can see to make sure they don't see anybody in danger. Remember, as the old saying, I said it most every day now, is turn around, don't drown. I cannot emphasize enough, stay out of the water and also stay out of the evacuated area. We did some surveying, the city manager and I and a couple other people, extensive surveys yesterday in the evacuated area, and came upon I'd say a troubling number of people there trying to take pictures in very dangerous areas. We did have a river rescue yesterday, and thank God it turned out to be a rescue. That person went into the water and was swept away. The person was able to grab onto a tree, and we were able to get that person out of the water into a safe area. But to do that, several police officers and firefighters literally put their lives at risk in great, great danger. I cannot emphasize enough, stay out of the water, please. Stay out of the evacuated areas. The battle is not over. We're fighting a good fight, but we gotta see this through the finish, and that means heeding these warnings, heeding these evacuation areas. Again, we're doing well, but the battle's not over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief English. I'd like to call on Wayne German, our police chief.
Good morning. The police department, along with our allied agencies, and thank you to the National Guard, continue to patrol the areas that have been identified as at risk or of inundation. Last night was again, quiet night. There were a few persons who were found wandering around areas that are in control of the curfew. There were no arrests. However, those young persons, juveniles who were located, their parents were notified, and their parents had to come and take them home. So again, can't emphasize enough the message that we are still in a very hazardous condition here. Those areas that have been identified for evacuation are still at risk, and we need to get the message out that everyone needs to stay clear, allow for the public works and the public safety officials and the contractors to do what needs to be done to keep this city safe. With respect to the scams that were mentioned yesterday, I spoke with the FBI this morning. They will be opening a federal investigation into wire fraud. Anyone who feels they are a victim of these scams involving this violation of federal law is asked to contact either the FBI office or the Cedar Rapids Police. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Now call up Steve Hirschner, our Director of Utilities.
Thank you. I'd like to report our water system is operating normally at this time. Our water pollution control facility is seeing significant river flows that are heavily impacting our influent and flood systems, pumps, and motors, but they are holding up well at this time at that facility. As others have noted, this has become a below-ground battle. Saturated ground in low areas like Newbo, downtown, Time Check, and Check Village is leaking into both sanitary sewers and building basements. You may be on higher ground or in a dry area, but what you discharge or flush will flow by gravity through our sanitary sewer system through some of these low areas and may contribute to basement sewer backups. As we've noted previously, please discharge water wisely. We started a pump early this morning to help relieve sanitary sewers in the Newbo and Sinclair areas, which are some of our lowest areas in the system. This has been reported to DNR. Solid Waste Division continues collections in areas outside of the evacuation zone. We are currently working on sandbag disposal options with both the Lynn County, Cedar Rapids Solid Waste Agency and Lynn County as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to call on Alliant Energy, please. Doug Kopp.
Thanks, Jeff. Just have a couple of pieces of information. So just a reminder on safety. You've heard about it all week long. If you need any additional information on safety, you can go to our website, alliantenergy.com, and look up flood safety. You'll be able to get some information there. Also, we just want to add my thanks to all the volunteers and the citizens of Cedar Rapids and the city of Cedar Rapids and Lynn County also for all the work they've done. It's been a great partnership. Just a quick status update. So you've heard about it. The underground issue is here. We have people stationed around the city strategically, so we're ready to respond quickly. I want to talk a little bit about our underground system in Cedar Rapids. So all of our equipment is underground, our switchgear and so forth underground in vaults. We are taking on groundwater. These two of them have significant amount of groundwater. Now our system is built to be submersible, so we don't have a worry there, but that system is connected to everything underground and creates a potential pathway for water to move. So we have increased our pumping capacity. You may, if you were out there, you'd see maybe a large vacuum truck sucking water out of that. We believe we'll be able to keep those vaults dry from here going forward. There's a lot of pressure and solid groundwater seeping in, so we expect to deal with that for the next couple of days. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Doug. We appreciate the work of Alliant Energy and your leadership. We just got a text. Some people are having difficulty getting through the 211 number, United Way, when using a cell phone. If you're having trouble, please call 319-739-4211 or 1-866-469-2211. And the TTTY is 319-892-6586. We can have additional information for the media if you'd like after our press conference. Is the representative from Mid-American here? Greg, did you have any specific comments?
No,
Updates?
just that, we're working 24/7, and once the evacuation order is lifted, we'll be ready to go, and just we'll be doing what we can to restore quality, but obviously safe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to call Mayor Ron Corbett forward, and again, I wanted to acknowledge the mayor's leadership. It's been of great assistance to our entire team, providing a critical link to the community as well as providing leadership expertise, but also the entire city council, who has been greatly helpful to all city staff and directors in the community as we've gone through this flooding experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, and good morning, everybody. Well, we're in our final countdown, the final 24 hours of this most dangerous period in this flooding event. But we still have another 24 hours after we get through the dangerous period to get us to the safe period, is when the river gets below 18 feet. You know, I've had a few elections over my life, and most of you haven't had a chance to experience what it's like to be a candidate and experience Election Day. Well, let me tell you some things about Election Day. Election Day comes after you've done all the work on the campaign. And on Election Day, there's really not much you can do. You have this anxious anxiety, this nervousness about you. You're a little fidgety, and so you try to do some busy work, maybe call a couple precincts to see what the turnout is, or what one side of town is doing from a voter turnout, and trying to maybe pre-analyze everything. And then about sometime in the middle of the afternoon, you realize that you can't do anything. It's Election Day. People are voting. You've already prepared by running your campaign. And a sense of peace comes over you as you look into the mirror and say you've done everything possible. All you can do now is just wait for the results of the people's vote and for those results to come in at the end of Election Day. So today's our CREST Day, and a lot of people are feeling a little anxious today, a little nervousness, a little fidgety. What can we do? And I want to know what's going on in Newbo, or I heard something over in Czech Village. And there'll be a time this afternoon that as a community we'll stand in front of that mirror and we'll feel that peace about us also. And we should, because we've done everything we could, just like I've did everything I could to influence the voters on Election Day. We've done everything we could do to influence the river on Crest Day. But we can't make it go any faster. We let half the river has to do its job over the course of Crest Day. So we'll know at the end of this day how successful we've been for handling this most critical time in our community's flood recovery effort. And tomorrow, we'll have another 24 hours before we finally get to that safe zone. And I know everyone feels confident. I do. And one reason we do feel confident is in 2008, we felt defenseless. In 2016, we took action and mobilized. And then rather than sit back and be defenseless, we defended ourselves by being offensive and building this construction of this temporary system. It's working as planned. Again, we're not out of the danger zone. We have to let the river do its job today, just like voters do their job on Election Day. But I'm sure tomorrow, when we wake up, just as me as a candidate always likes to wake up on the winning side, tomorrow we'll wake up on the winning side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to acknowledge that we're joined by our friends who will be interpreting for the deaf members of our community. Thank you for being here. The time is here for questions and answers. We hope answers. And so we'll certainly open ourselves up to questions from the media as well as the public. And we just ask that we're trying to be as concise as possible. So please keep that in mind. And we would prefer to deal with questions as opposed to perhaps statements. So thank you. First. Yes, Mr. Seeley.
I want to say I think it's as close to supernatural what the city has done, and that's my concern. So there are questions. It could have been higher, it could have been faster, and we couldn't have possibly done it. My question is, if you're going to take down the HESCO barriers, are you going to replace them with something that's even stronger? You did this in 2 to 3 days. What could you have done in 8 years since 2008 to make something that was even more permanent? And so I called our Washington delegation, the governor, and we started talking about there must be a weakness in this process, because I suppose a lot of cities are still waiting. And I don't, if 2008 wasn't bad enough, are they just appeasing us for capitulation, not to get the money, and they're just appeasing us? Why can't we just build it ourselves and quit this monkeying around? We've lost, businesses have lost money. I can just go on and on, but I know you get the point.
Thanks.
I know you get the point.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. So, you know, the comment had to do with really the need for long-term flood protection in Cedar Rapids. And we certainly at the city agree with that. We have taken numerous measures and spent many, many millions of dollars planning, but also making improvements to our city to make sure that a time like this, that the city of Cedar Rapids is able to survive and thrive and move beyond that challenge. And so we've talked about a number of those things, but whether it's improvements to our water system, our wastewater system, that have allowed those systems to continue, the many properties that we've been forced to acquire to keep those properties out of harm's way, numerous infrastructure improvements that have been made, the investment in the HESCO barriers that have allowed us to protect our city. There's just countless ways and many, many investments we've made. But long term, we do need permanent flood protection. We're on our way. I see here there's a number of representatives from the state of Iowa. The state was very helpful to us in passing some key legislation to allow us funds to build flood protection in the long term, but those dollars aren't enough. The city is stepping up with the monies that we need to provide in order to match the state dollars, but also extremely critical and necessary the dollars to come from the federal government. We're still missing that piece. We are included in what's called the WRDA bill, the Water Resources Development Act. While we're included in the piece of legislation that authorizes our project, we do not have monies that are being made available from the federal government to actually get the work done. So it's nice being on the list, and we've received some help for that in recent times as far as prioritizing, but ultimately, great being on the list, we need the dollars, and that comes through appropriation. We also have sought the assistance of the President of the United States, and having our project in the President's budget would also be very, very critical in showing that this is a priority, not just for our city, but for the entire nation. So I can assure you that many things have been done. We haven't been sitting around since '08. Lots of things have occurred from an infrastructure perspective, from an investment perspective. The job's not done, and we need the federal government's help. Additional questions? Yes.
Can you
Zach.
elaborate on the contractors and how many and what types of contractors you're working with?
Sure. So there's a question from Mr. Kacharski from the Gazette regarding how many contractors we are working with and the kinds of assistance that they've given us. Jen?
Sure. Yeah, our private contractors have been critical in maintaining this flood control system. I'm not going to name them because I'll miss somebody and I'll feel bad, but we can send out a list of all of the contractors that have been working with us. A lot of our large general contractors, earthwork and dirtwork type contractors, pipe contractors, about everybody. So if anybody's interested in that, we can surely compile that list and get it out.
You know, what I've also witnessed is the tremendous amount of pride in getting this job done, building this temporary system from our city employees and other partners at the public level, but also the contractors that you just mentioned, Zach. They take just tremendous pride in the work that they've done, and you know, many of these individuals were around to build the system, but they also told us, you know, they wanted to be there to make sure the system performed as well, and they have really identified with the work that they've done and taken pride in that work, and so we really appreciate the private sector that's helped us. We couldn't have done it without the private sector contractors. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Morelli from the Gazette.
I was just wondering if you've begun to think about disassembling this protective system and a little bit about what that process might be like. Obviously, there's a lot of material out there.
You know, that's already in the planning stages. You know, okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question is, how do we plan on disassembling the walls and all the work that was put up on a temporary basis to protect the city? So again, that's going to be a tremendous effort. You know, the system went up in in 2 days, but it's going to take longer than that to disassemble the system, move the material out. In some cases, we hope to save the material, but if it's contaminated in any way, we won't be able to do so. So it will take a good deal of time to remove the HESCO barriers, the walls that we've built, all the temporary structures that have been put up. Will take tremendous effort, and it will take, I'm sure, while the initial large-scale improvements such as the HESCO walls, will be taken out in a couple of days, it will take a long time, to get us back to where we were at the city. But we're ready to do that. We're going to move as quickly as possible. Yes, Doug, thank you.
Back in 2008, once the waters receded, there were hydraulic issues regarding individual basements of residents, walls collapsing after the water receded. At what point do you anticipate starting to deal and talk with residents about that potential?
So we've been talking about that amongst ourselves as well. The question had to do with the hydraulic issues, and are we going to have walls caving in and other kinds of damage to facilities. And so, we're closely monitoring those situations. There are a number of buildings right now that have a large amount of water in them. Many of them are older buildings. We expect we'll be seeing that in some of the private homes. So we'll, through our Building Services Division, be keeping a close eye on the impact of water in these facilities. And we'll find out more in the coming days what the extent of the damage is. Thank you. Yes?
The evacuation zone is set up based on 26 to 28 feet of water. And I know there was earlier some discussions about maybe adjusting the size of the evacuation zone. With the river thankfully cresting at 22 feet, is that a conversation that we can start having?
It is a conversation. We're evaluating that. We'll have more information at tomorrow's press conference, same time, 10 a.m. Because we're as the mayor said, we're pleased with the way things are ending up. We're pleased that the level is a bit better from our perspective than anticipated. We're very happy that the system that we put in place is providing the protection that's necessary. But the job's not over yet. The battle's not over yet, particularly with what we're seeing with seepage from underground onto our streets and the pressure that is building. We'll know more tomorrow. But again, the question has to do with when we'll be loosening up on the various closures and allowing people to come back to their businesses and come back to their homes. And as soon as we get more information, more refined information, we'll report on that. We'll have more at tomorrow's press conference at at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Yes, Ms. Seeger.
I'm wondering, this isn't exactly in your realm, but we're all connected. The Cedar Rapids School District and Brookfield Schools contacted you as to when they are going to continue classes. It's been a really good situation that the children are not riding around in buses, and I just wondered if there's anyone from the school district that will be talking to the parents that are going on a day-to-day basis.
So the question has to do with our communication with the school district and when schools are going to reopen. So appreciate that question. We also from Alliant Energy, but wearing another hat, as Mary Meisterling, who's on the school board. Would you be willing, Mary, I know you're not here to comment on that, but the school has been a tremendous partner. We're in constant contact with the district. They're very aware of exactly what's happening. But I think Mary's on the school board, so she'd be good to answer that.
Thank you, Linda. So the reason they canceled school for the 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, was really because of transportation issues. We have a lot of buses. We have a lot of road closures, so it's going to be difficult to get our kids to and from school. You will hear an announcement later on today about the continuation of classes or discontinuation regarding the rest of the week, and we'll certainly communicate that with with our city officials as well.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm referencing the area south of 8th Avenue on the southwest side. Even if there were a catastrophic breach in the levee somewhere south of Meridian, there would not be enough water in Animal Valley extra for water to go beyond D Street and First Street on the southwest side. Why is it necessary to have the National Guard patrolling and blocking access to that area?
So, gentleman's talking about an area said near Ingredion. How did you describe that area? Can you repeat that?
South of Ingredion.
South of Ingredion. And why is it necessary to have the National Guard patrolling that particular area? Chief, you want to just address that? Sure.
Talking about the area above D Street, First Street, and so on, and spreading west.
Above D Street to First Street and spreading west. Why does the Guard need to be there based on the conditions that this gentleman is seeing in that area?
Understand, and thank you for the question. We did, as you're aware, we planned for 28 feet. We're keeping it at that point for right now. And as the city manager said just briefly ago, there are plans to collapse those zones sooner than later. We will know more about that tomorrow morning. At the same time, we will get people back into the safe areas, I emphasize safe, as soon as we can. The danger's not over. I know if there was a breach right now, it wouldn't get up to 28 feet, but we still want to make sure that we're in a safer time or in a safer area than we are right now. Thank you.
But where could the water come from to reach this safety factor that you're talking about?
A lot of it is going to be underground. It's going to be sewer backups, storm sewer backups. As was stated earlier in the briefing, it's not as much a risk. It's still a risk of the river water, but we're more worried now, or at least as much worried now as the underground, the saturated soils, as I said, the sewer backups, things that could come up through your basements. That we're gonna get you in there as soon as we can, but we're not gonna do it until it's safe.
Okay, additional questions?
I was just wondering if you could address the massive volunteer effort that you've seen. What do you guys think about it?
There's a question regarding the massive volunteer effort. So it's been well reported that there have been over 250,000 sandbags placed in buildings and residences in harm's way. There's no way the city could have done that on its own. On the news this morning, I saw a gentleman from the Weather Channel that travels the country covering these kinds of disasters, and he commented on how, from his perspective, he'd not seen anything like this in the past. The level of community support, the level of engagement and involvement, individuals working together to save not just their own properties, but the properties of others. We've received tremendous support at the city level, whether that's been from individual citizens or businesses. It's been gratifying. We could not have protected the city without the work, certainly, of the citizens of Cedar Rapids. And we reach out and appreciate our city employees and other partners that have joined us. But without our citizens, there's no way we could be successful. So, we've said it before, but we'll continue to say thank you so much to the citizens of Cedar Rapids for stepping up. It's a great feeling of pride that we're not in this alone. We are a strong community because of the way we have come together. And all of you, citizens of Cedar Rapids, again, should feel really good about where we are today because of the efforts of our city and citizens. Further questions? Yes, Zach Charcy from the Gazette.
Closed for another couple days, the transit system?
Yes, our transit system, Sandy Fowler, monitoring that on a day-to-day basis. When do we expect transit to be back?
As soon as the transportation system's open.
So it's going to be a few more days. Again, we'll continue to monitor the system. We know that public transportation is important to many, and as soon as we have that information, we'll make that announcement. Okay. Further questions? Okay. Before I conclude, we wanted to invite a couple of partners up. Peter Tian from the American Red Cross has been critical to our success, and we rely on the Red Cross as one of our many important partners that I've mentioned. And then after Mr. Tian makes his comments, Lynn County Emergency Management is also with us, and they'll be stepping up as well. Thank you.
Thank you. American Red Cross is proud to be a partner working in this disaster with the city and the county, as well as all the other voluntary organizations in the area. I look at this personally with my disaster experience. We're at halftime. You know, we've got to this point. We've got a long ways to go, especially as the water starts receding and possibly do damage to people's homes. Red Cross and all the voluntary agencies are here to help in the long-term recovery that some families may experience. The other thing that I've talked about every day is stress management. This is a key time for everyone to think about where your stress level is, what are you doing to take care of it. You know, it's time to get some rest, time to eat some good food. It's time to kind of let some of the pressure out and refocus. One of the ways that I've suggested in the past is journaling. And if you've never done journaling, it's a great way to express yourself. And I'm going to take this opportunity to share a journal entry that I did last night about 2 o'clock this morning, because I think it should lead as an example of what everyone should be thinking about at the halftime of this flood. In life, there are defining moments. I sincerely believe that today is a defining moment for each of us. We have seen leaders lead. We have watched as adults and children of all ages, of all skin color, of all lifestyles and nationalities come together to fill sandbags, distribute food, water, and hugs to those working to protect our city and our homes. We've witnessed strangers helping strangers move possessions, family members, and pets out of harm's way. We came together to fight the fight, and now we watch to see what the water does. We are far from done, but from the ruins of 2008, we learned and we overcame. Regardless of the outcome, from this day forward, we will always remember that we were part of something bigger, bigger than just one of us. Let us remember that we are Cedar Rapids, that we are Lynn County, that we are Iowans, and that we are united. Keep going. We've got a fight to go. Thank you.
Mike Goldberg, Lynn County Emergency Management Director. The waters are receding in Palo and Central City. Pelican Ridge Park Ranger indicated water went down 7 inches overnight. The Blair's Ferry Road to Palo remained open during the entire event, which gave us an indication that the water may not have been reaching the previous forecast, which was a good thing. Blair's Ferry is a very important road. Palo is shrinking their evacuation area, and damage assessment teams are getting ready to go in and conduct both building safety inspections and FEMA damage assessments, so we can proceed with the preliminary damage assessments that we are required to provide to the state of Iowa. Overnight, the shelter count was at St. Paul. There was 34, and at Cedar Hills, there was 84. That was 39 at St. Paul, excuse me. So total was 123. One thing now, as waters are receding, there is the issue of exposure to the water. Public Health Department has asked that we convey that touching the water is not necessarily make a need for a tetanus booster, but any sort of injury, open skin exposure to flood water should seek medical attention and have the tetanus booster evaluated. The sandbags that are abundant throughout all of Lynn County and Cedar Rapids, contaminated sandbags can go to the Solid Waste Agency, and the non-contaminated sandbags are eligible for reuse. The sand's eligible for reuse. There should be more coming out on that from most of the communities here later today. The damage assessment teams, as I said, city county teams are coordinating, gathering of information and their deployment, and they should be available to go out just as soon as possible to facilitate getting people into their residence, along with the other things that have to happen, such as utilities. The debris removal, the damage assessment team, there is a public assistance event been declared by the state of Iowa for this, so we will begin collecting information from all of our participants, not only cities, but school districts, drainage districts, everybody that might have some infrastructure that may have been affected by this event, for debris removal, emergency protective measures, and permanent restoration of their infrastructure. So those numbers are all beginning to be gathered now to facilitate the public assistance, possible presidential declaration process. So, thank you.
Thank you. Press conference is over. Thank you very much.